Welcome to Auto Dealer Live. Today we're talking about leadership. And man, I'm telling you what, this is a great subject that you guys are gonna really love. We're gonna talk about what leadership is. I'm gonna give you a hint, it's influence. We're gonna talk about how to overcome obstacles that we're gonna face as leaders. And we're gonna also talk about what advice we'd give to our past self in the situations we may have went through and say, hey, this is what I would do if I were you, looking back now from where we are today. Look, you're gonna love this episode. Enjoy it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Dave?
Oh man, doing good. I tell you what, man, it's hard to pull myself away, with the energy that's going on out in the sales room and a lot going on, man. But I tell you what, we were just talking earlier about how many demos. I just feel like the tide's turning in many ways. A lot of dealers are just getting, they're getting it. You know what I mean? I think that, if dealers are shrinking back, they're shrinking back to the place where I'm not talking to any of them, because the dealers that I'm talking to right now, Brett, really are trying to make something happen, and they're looking for opportunity in the middle of an obstacle.
Well, I just got off the phone right before we walked in here with a broker who's selling a store. Mm-hmm. And I really think it's kind of the tale of two cities. Remember the old Charles Dickens book, Tale of Two Cities, where the best of times is the worst of times. And I think that the dealers that are engaged and active are doing really well, and the ones that are not are looking for an exit. And that's kind of, are y'all seeing that kind of stuff as you call around?
We are. And then the truth of the matter is, I've often said this, through obstacles, you don't ever want to wish anybody harm. So just kind of removing that from the scenario altogether, it's better for the business as a whole when you get people that are going to come in and make something happen, and it kind of flushes out those that are looking to make an exit. I think that's a good thing for the industry as a whole, because ultimately it's going to make it stronger. And it's going to put people in places, that, into those dealerships possibly that can make something out of nothing. I mean, we talked to somebody just a couple of weeks ago, when Alex Flores went into Capital Chevy in Austin, and, when he went into that store, years ago, I know we weren't in the situation that we're in now, but if you look at it, look what he's done. You get a producer into a scenario, they really don't look for excuses. They look for openings and opportunities to make something happen. And that's really, I think that with anything else, it just goes down to, I think that's the repetitive process for success, period. I mean, there just can't be more excuses than there are opportunities.
You got to have reason or results. But no, going back to what you said, that we're not wishing harm's way on anybody. I think it's just the natural evolution is as things change, some people say, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to go, I was talking to a guy that's in the oil business, and the oil business has those cycles, and he's been in it for a long time. And I saw him the other day, and he said, Brett, I got one more cycle in me and I'm done. And so I think that's what you see with what I mentioned earlier, is that some people are just like, I've done well. I don't want to have to adapt again. I might just punch the ticket and kind of like Flores did. Let somebody else come in here and take the reins, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we got a great panel today. We've got Forrest Elder, GM of Elder Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Cedar Creek in Gun Barrel, Texas. Mike, our producer, said that's the most Texas thing that he's ever heard, Gun Barrel, Texas. Hey, Forrest is a great operator. He's going to be on with us for the first time. And Tony Wren is back with us for a second time, but we were so impressed with him. He was in the middle, of Seattle, a lot going on up there, but he's the GM and managing partner of Evergreen Chevrolet just outside of Seattle. And had someone just jump, had a meeting he had to run into literally as we were starting the show. So Jared can be hopefully with us in another day. But we've got you here, man, our resident dealer, owner of 4, soon to be 5 stores, and growing. And I'm going to do my best to hang in there. But, man, I'll tell you what a great panel, great show, great questions, and we got a great audience.
Well, I tell you what, my mother's from Texas, and I've never heard of Gun Barrel, Texas. So I'll be interested to ask Forrest about that and where it's located. And one plug, we did it last week. I want to say it again today because we saw it up here on the board. If you're looking for motivation, if you're looking for leadership, if you're looking for self-help, follow David's Game Changer podcast. I mean, we were just looking at the results here a few minutes ago. He's got 8,000 to 10,000 views of that show every week. It's growing on a weekly basis. It's powerful. I watched it myself. If you need that nugget of information, if you need that encouragement, follow Dave Villa on Game Changer.
Oh man, I appreciate that, brother. Mm-hmm. And I gotta step my dress game up though. Brett's coming in. You're looking sharp, man, every week. And let me ask you this, though, man. And I know we kind of talk about this a lot, it seems like, but in reality is, I think that, when you find success, you realize a lot of times it's doing the same things over and over that work. It's really it's such a process that sometimes for me, for instance, I have flexibility in my day, but there's some non-negotiables. And, looking at the things that you've repeated over and over, we talk about this, but you're in buying mode. You're in acquisition mode. You're searching for more opportunities. And I know that you don't need more work. It's not that you're looking for something to do. You got plenty to do. But why are you, and this is, I think, helps set the narrative, even for most of the audience that aren't dealers, that aren't buying stores or anything like that. But why are you in acquisition mode? Why do you think that now's the time, or maybe now's the season to do that?
Well, for me, I operate under the auspice that you're either expanding or contracting. Mm-hmm. There's no treading water. And so for me, I had a stated goal when I started this several years back that we were going to grow, that we were going to create opportunities, that we were going to bring people on our bench. But in order to promise those folks and then deliver on the promises, we have to create opportunities. Now, at the same time, we don't want to grow just for the sake of growing. We don't want to grow to put our name on the building. We don't want to grow to announce how many stores we have. We want to grow to put opportunities in people's paths that have executed based on the promises they made us and the promises we made them. And so that's why we're doing it. I also think that, in times when things look bleak, that's when there's opportunities that people say, hey, I think I don't want, like I said earlier in the segment, is they don't want to go through the cycle. And so it creates opportunities for us. But more so than anything else is that we brought people in the organization over the last several years. We've made promises to them on where they could go if they did certain things, and those people have done those things. And so we've got to put the opportunities out there in front of them. Now, that being said, just so I'm clear, we turn down more than we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? We're not
Absolutely.
Just out there trying to reach and do any deal. Mm-hmm. We evaluate them, we look at them, we circulate them amongst the team, we scissor it up, and we turn down more deals than we.
Well, I think that that somebody could say, well, what am I getting out of that, right? I'm a salesman or whatever. It's really that way in all the microcosms of what you do. I mean, the reality is there's some deals that you may need to walk away from. There's some things that you need to get rid of in your life. I mean, saying yes. Some people say yes to everything. Just basically more is better, and that's not necessarily. I don't subscribe to that. I think that time is precious, and there are things that we need to evaluate and cut out of our time and stop. And it's okay to say no, because the one thing I've learned over the years that I run out of, because there's some non-negotiables in my life. One thing I run out of is time. I mean, it's just you can't create more of it. You're going to need sleep of some sort, because if you don't, you're not going to last very long. You're going to burn it at both ends. And the reality is, you've only got X amount of time, and so there's some things. It's kind of the culling effect, right? I mean, call it what it is. But if I'm going to embrace something that's going to do good for me, make me money, get me more deals, improve my process, there are some things I need to let go of, even if it yields something. But if I can yield more, then I'm going to call, right? Then I'm going to replace the lowest on the totem pole, so to speak, with return.
Well, I think to speak to your point, right? Because you said, what would a salesperson, what would a service advisor, what would a technician, what would the layperson get out of that, right? Mm-hmm. And what I would say to get out of that is, as I've grown as a person, I used to say yes to everything. I used to put my hands in a lot of stuff, and what I realized is I have to find the 3 or 4 things that I do well, and I got to stay focused in that zone, mm-hmm. and focused 100% of the time. And so as an individual contributor, you figure out what you do well, and that's what you do on a daily basis, and you go to work to try to improve yourself there, try to educate yourself there, try to motivate yourself there, bring in outside resources, and that will pay dividends and then secondary is to share with your supervisors where you want to go, mm-hmm. and ask them to help you get there, if that makes sense.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Mike, our guests are locked or loaded. So we got 2 on. We have 2 on. One dropped out right before the show happens. This is the car business, and a TO comes first, right? And it's good to know that there's a lot of business going on. But let's bring on our guest right now. We have, and I'll throw it to you, Brett, for the first question. We have on Skype with us, we have Forrest Elder. He is the general manager, Elder Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Cedar Creek in Gun Barrel, Texas. Again, you don't get a name like that without having a story behind it, right? So I want to find out that. And we have Tony Wren. Tony is the GM and managing partner of Evergreen Chevrolet, just outside of Seattle. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate it. We know you're busy and you got a lot of things going on. So, hey, Brett, let's just jump right into it.
Well, when we kind of came up with this topic, it was keyed off one of the shows where some of the leaders of the organization said, why don't y'all talk about something relating to employees that in areas that you didn't come from? Because the gentleman's comment that brought it up was like, most of us came from variable operations, right? We started as a salesperson or sales manager, something along those lines, and now we find ourselves leading parts people, leading service people, leading the office. And so to key off that question is Tony, let me ask you, what was the first lesson that surprised you in leading someone that's not in your area of your strength?
Oof. Tony, you're muted.
You're muted, Tony.
Is it on our end, Mike? So, Forrest, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear y'all.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yeah. Can you want to throw that? We'll throw that question to you first. We'll pull Tony's audio up here. Same question.
Well, it's actually one that hits pretty close to home. I mean, obviously, like most of everybody else in this business, we start on the variable side and work our way up and kind of go from there. And I had the fortunate, gift to get to open the store about 18 months ago, and fixed operations is something that obviously I can manage on a number scale, like anything else, got my percentages and my numbers, my metrics, my KPIs, and everything sort that I want to hit. But what I didn't realize is how poorly I knew the processes, and not so much, obviously the processes are, you can read the book and look at the processes and kind of know what you need to put in there, but it was the implementation and inspecting what you expect of the processes that I did just a poor job of when we first opened up over here. And luckily, I took a good look in the mirror and realized how poorly the job I was doing. I mean, personally, I think that's on me, not my people. They can't do their jobs if I don't set expectations for them. So basically,
is it one of those things where you just kind of were,
I guess,
looking at it, maybe just saying it'll take care of itself, because that's kind of is that kind of where it started, maybe?
Well, not so much take care of itself. So I like I said, this is a brand new point that I'm in now, gun barrel. So there's no existing SCA point here in any source. We opened up, built it from ground up. I put my crew together, and every other department I had a guy that I knew was a tried and true good department head. My GSM, used car manager, parts manager, my controller, everybody was just stellar. I had just great track records, did really good jobs. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided to bring in a guy who'd never been a full-blown service manager, but had been a lane manager, assistant service manager, some of the sort, but never been a service manager, had to deal with technicians and customers and advisors and warranty clerks and everything sort of all at one time. And which me not having always having a tried and true service manager before, so I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and he didn't know exactly what he was doing. And let me tell you, that is a great recipe for disaster in the service department.
Yes.
So I guess my biggest thing on how to lead somebody, or how to lead a crew, would be, first off, make sure you find somebody that's experienced in the area. I come from a rodeo background. It's kind of like learning how to rope when you're riding a horse. It's learn how to rope. It doesn't work real well. But if you have somebody that knows their job and you set your expectations, and listen to their ideas, listen to what their suggestions are, and don't try to micromanage them to an extent. Manage the way you manage, but let them do their thing, and as long as you have the same morals and values and the same goals as you, hire the right person, trust them, and essentially when you lead by example. And that's maybe not knowledge based if you don't know as much about that department, but it's more of taking care of the customer, coming customer service all the way around, and everything else. So
that's good.
That's my example. I mean, don't try to essentially act like you know everything when you don't. Be humble about it. Learn from them. Grow yourself as a manager. Is what I've tried to do. And like I said, let them do their thing and go from there. That's my suggestion.
Tony, can you hear us now?
I've been able to hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You want to weigh in on that one?
How about that? Well, yeah, I was trying to say, when you're dealing with service and parts, and I am from sales, and from sales on up, I'm doing this a long time, but when you're dealing with service and parts, you got to jump in the game with them, even if it's not your expertise. So we talk about, service advisor. We do sales training on, 7:00 Wednesday mornings for service advisors, and it's not much different than training salespeople. The sales is sales, and service advisors need the help. My management with technicians and with counter and back counter people, I just make it a habit to say hello to them every day, sit and talk to them every day, come back, find out what they had for friggin' lunch, buy a couple things for the lunchroom once in a while, and you just stay in the game with them. And I'm constant. I think more than anything else, I ask them if they have enough work, and is it the kind of work you like, and show me what you're doing. And it takes less than 3 or 4 minutes, and all of a sudden you're in the game with them. You know where they're going on vacation. You know where their next trip is. You know what their travel trailer looks like. Whether it's this or that or whatever. And if you're in the game with them, and you don't have to have the expertise, you got to be in touch with them every day. So the constant touch doesn't require me to have the in-depth knowledge that they do, but in the end result is we all know what the efficiency is. We all know where we need to be, hours per RO and everything else. And if we're working through it together, we got a happy plan on our hands. So that's what matters.
I had a question, this kind of, it's not on script here, but this is something that I've often wondered regarding. I'll go to you, Forrest. Because I'm assuming that, and I can only assume this, I mean, it may not be the case. And Tony, I know you've owned stores for a long time, so you may have never had this experience of working for someone in this case. But I know a lot of GMs, let's just look at GMs that are listening right now, that are variable, right? Set.
Mindset.
Yeah, mindset. And they work for a fixed, or a GSM, and they work for a fixed minded general manager. There are those, I don't think the challenge goes one way. I think there might be a challenge of those individuals looking and understanding a very sales focused, variable guy. So I mean, Forrest, have you ever had a situation like that earlier in your career where you were working for someone or with someone that might have had that mindset as well? I mean, because I think because here's the deal. I mean, the reality is when you're in charge of both sides, I mean, in your compensated that way, obviously the ownership is, but the back end should be the healthiest. I mean, it's really important, right? But yet it doesn't get the glamour and sometimes, so I mean, why do you think there's this void in between the front and back end, when it really comes down to there's some serious profit on both sides?
Oh, sure. And honestly, your fixed operations, you're essentially selling something that doesn't necessarily have a hard cost associated to it other than whatever you're paying said technician, but you're selling the hour labor. And there's just a finite amount of that, obviously, but how many you're going to have every day and how many you have available, and it's a lot easier to forecast what's available and what you can do there. But to be honest with you, it's not as popular because it's not as sexy. I mean, there's nothing sexy about fixing a car as opposed to selling that SRT 392 Charger out there. And your salesmen, they're flashy. I mean, you don't think of the car business, think of a grungy technician back there. When, in all honesty, he's probably one of the most intelligent people in the building, because I don't know if you've seen cars nowadays, but it's quite ridiculous on the amount of technology on all of them. But and that's why I think you're seeing a little bit more of that transition phase too, though, because you're not having some of those shade tree mechanics and stuff like that you had before that can kind of take place of these technicians. I mean, these aren't mechanics anymore. They're certified. They're technicians. They're technical in what they do, and they have to be stellar what they do. I mean, there's very small margin of error in this stuff, and they have to be students of the industry in order to be great at what they do. You can't be a so-so technician and get very far, because you're going to cost somebody a lot of money, and it's just the margins keep growing smaller, just like everything else, and the margin of error is just so much smaller now. But as far as that goes, personally, I've never been in that experience, never been in that situation where I've had to work for a fixed-minded, general manager of any sort. However, in my 20 group that I've been in for quite a few years now, some of the best operators in that group, managing part of the store, stuff like that, came up on the fixed side. And I think that they're a little more calculated just in general than probably some of the variable guys are. A little bit less risk taking, probably do a little bit better job of maybe expense management, some other stuff, because there is so much. You're not going to go make that, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, gross profit lick on a service job that you get done in an hour and make up for a mistake. You make a mistake, and it could take you a day and a half to make it up, or 2 days, or a week, or whatever the case may be. And I just think in general they're a little more calculated. And this is, like I said, just an assumption, just from my observation outside of looking in, obviously, but they tend to be a little less volatile, probably a little bit. They're a little more easygoing. They don't get riled up near his bags. They're used to dealing with customers who are essentially, everybody they deal with is just pissed all the time. Everybody comes in is.
That's why they call it fixed.
Exactly.
Because everything's fixed.
Everything's fixed.
Right.
And I've said it from day one. I mean, everybody comes across a service job is not in a great mood. So they're used to dealing with just frustrated people all the time, and so they you just can't rattle them hardly, the good ones. And you find a guy like that, and they typically will end up making a great manager because they're good at dealing with people. That's what they've done their whole life. That's essentially what we do.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Very good.
I mean, Tony, you want to take a crack at that? I mean, that wasn't on our list of questions. It's just something that, I mean, and again, I think Forrest covered it, but I mean, have you seen that in some colleagues and individuals as well? Because I know you obviously are running your own store, and you already said you're variable minded, but.
Well, I don't see the big division between sales and service, at least in our organization over the last 20 years. I've been in other organizations that do have a big wall set up, but it basically was pay plan related, and somebody was making money at somebody else's expense instead of all pulling on the same rope. And if if we're all trying to get every car on the lot by Friday afternoon, and we're pacing it from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, and the advisors are on the same program as the sales managers, and we all are pulling on the same rope, and we have the same objective, and they know there's some guidelines. There's 23 cars to get through service between now and Thursday, and that has to be done, and this has to be done, and we're all in it together. I mean, there shouldn't be this unless you have some broken pay plans, I would think.
Well, I think that probably, Tony, that probably comes from leadership, though. I mean, you're probably leading in that realm, because I think to have a cohesive parts and service and variable, it has to come from the leadership managing that. I don't believe that you can have that just with the pay plan. Pay plans incentivize certain things, but still people get suspicious. Variable people get suspicious that they're trying to load the car with too much stuff. Fixed people get suspicious that they're trying not to fix the car and put the customer in peril. And I think what you're saying is you've done a good job of leading that and bridging that gap so that the two sides kind of come together and understand one another. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I think we just hang out together and we do it together. We have our 15-year parties together. We do put the people together. I just don't see the big division between sales and service unless you've built some large walls that you can't get through. And typically, I say it's not all pay plans, and you're right, it has to come from the top, but that's almost a given. I mean, that has to be the goal of a general manager, is to put sales and service and parts working together as one. So if that's not the goal, I mean, certainly you have to fix that. But that given, then you got to get rid of all the natural fences, the pay plan problems, and some incentive issues that work against what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, if
I just wanted to give you
72-hour reconditioning deal, then it's got to be 72 hours for everybody, not just for the used car manager.
I just wanted to give you some credit, because you were putting it to a pay plan, and there's a lot of people out there, and most of the stores that I've acquired, and most of them had a fixed deal that was like this, and we had to fix all that. And I just wanted to, to give your credit and tell that story, because a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't realize that you have to lead that from the top, and you have to mitigate those decisions between those departments, and you have to build those bridges and build those relationships, and you got to help each department understand the other one's mindset, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and if nothing causes you to probably want to solve that more than owning the stores, because I mean, it's your money, it's your baby, right? You got to try to fix that. It's funny, we keep using the word fix. You said fix. Fixed is fixed. That's what it is. I mean, those people know what time they're coming to work, what time they get off, what their day looks like. It's usually set up a day in advance. I mean, whereas variable, it's, going back to Forrest's point, I mean, it's all over the map. I might roll the dice. We might call Dave and buy some extra advertising and hope we do $100,000 by Friday. I think that'd be a good idea.
They don't do that. They don't go buy an engine and say, let's hope somebody comes in. We can put that engine in a car.
That'd be a good idea for us. I like that idea, by the way, what Brett said. But hey, let me ask this. I'm going off script. I'm gonna throw it back to you, Forrest. Just okay if I go off script here? I know you wrote some good. Brett always writes great questions, and I've always done this. You start talking, and then all of a sudden, man, you give me ideas. But I mean, I always lean to the variable side. Here I go again, right? But it has something to do with fixed. I mean, I'm thinking of how much opportunity, because I mean, going to dealerships that don't have processes right, or that don't see the opportunity, or think maybe, I've got so many leads, that they're looking sometimes for the lay down or the walk in, or the advertising lead. They forget that their customer base and the service drive, right? I mean, you have this customer that comes in that's might be in a great equity position, that's sitting back there in the lounge. I mean, Forrest, in your training for your store, right, and how what you expect, I mean, is that an important aspect for your salespeople to be able to, let's call it cherry pick. Let's go out and just find, customers that are back there in the fixed department and convert those into now deals. I mean, do you guys have a pretty strong plan for that?
Yeah, and once again, I mean, we're just now to the point where we can start kind of pulling some of our past customers off the drive.
Right.
But the store I was at before this was there for 35 years. I mean, so it was a huge selling point. Actually, over there, I actually hired a guy, and that's all he did was he was an old salesman who had a bum knee and couldn't hardly walk around a lot anymore, and ex-military stuff. And I hired him, and just said, hey man, I want you to sit on the service drive. And he's that older fella that sat out there and drank coffee more than all of them anyway. So he just sat out there and drank coffee, and he'd sell 15 lunches off service drive. And but as far as our process here, we have some stuff in place to where we're starting to get some of that, kind of residual, I guess you said, trickle down from previous customers we sold. But there was a large need for service work on SCA vehicles out here where we're at in this general, let's say probably 25, 30 mile area that people are having to drive 40, 50 miles to get there to a different dealership. So we're starting to see a lot of these customers come over and give us the opportunity to earn their business, which, like I said a minute ago, I almost did a really good job of completely messing up in my first few months with the wrong people here. And luckily I was fortunate to get that fixed. So we're starting to get those customers that are here and catching them on lot. I mean, do we know what the kind of equity situation are in right off the bat? No. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a disadvantage as opposed to maybe, we'd sold them in the past, but it's a huge untapped resources in most dealerships that you don't realize really until you start kind of seeing the effects of what it can do to your bottom line by capitalizing on that. A good friend of mine actually has a dealership.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're good. That's a good friend of mine has a dealership not far from you guys there in Clearwater and St. Pete, Dayton Andrews. Mm-hmm. And they actually implemented a sales team, a sales manager and a salesman just for the service drive. The
nice. Service
customer doesn't even make it into the showroom. Mm-hmm. And we look at it 20 groups and stuff, and it's been pretty dang neat what the incremental sales that's brought to the store and the growth is there, because those customers, I mean, they're B-backs essentially, or repeat customers. So, they convert at a higher level and typically make more gross on those customers. So,
I was going to ask you, and maybe Tony can weigh in. I'm sure you have an answer for this, but I mean, my question, my thing has always been, I know it's awkward because they're there for another reason. They didn't come on your lot to look at a car, so maybe it's a different word track. We walk up to them, hey, how you doing? But if they're in the service drive, they're there, and I think maybe that's what it seems. It seems able to be overcome, but I think a lot of times it might be the approach. How do I approach this customer that's sitting there in the lounge? What's your thoughts?
We train a process and have been doing it for a while, because I believe the service drive is, we spend a lot of money trying to acquire customers that we've never met before, but we're not spending a lot of money trying to keep the ones that we already have. And so, the salesperson always gets upset because, Miss Jones comes in and she bought from somebody else. Well, she bought from somebody else because you didn't ask her. And so the word track that we teach, it's very simple. It's called Up and Show. And you just walk up to, hey, David, good to see you. I see you got your car in service. Hey, what if we were able to move you up in years and keep your payments the same? Is that something you'd be interested in? It's a yes or no question. If they say, no, I'm not, then, hey, listen, do you have somebody that you normally work with here? No. I bought this car from John. He's not here anymore. Great. Can I take your name, number, information, stay in contact, stay in touch? You come in, get a cup of coffee. Now I turned an orphan owner into somebody as a salesperson that I can keep up my database and make sure that they're doing well. And so it may not be a today deal, but it may be down. If they say yes, then boom, we go straight into it. Second thing is, I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing, is when we have service tickets, we have salespeople go back there, work with the management, and the larger estimates we always call and say, what if we can? I know that John just called you back and you got a $2,500 estimate. What if we could take care of this estimate through the used car appraisal, put you in a new vehicle? You won't have to write the $2,500 check, and you can get a car with a full factory warranty, and you won't have to pay this money. And that's paid some good dividends and good results for us. Yeah. And it's also kept from looking up and seeing in the Ford store or the Chevy store, the Dodge store or the Toyota store, seeing somebody else's Toyota come in because we didn't ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Tony, I see you nodding your head to that. This seemed like that second one kind of fit your wheelhouse a little more.
It's just, I listened to the process. It's a good process. I wish we were a little bit better at it. A different take on or maybe a different angle, or maybe something we could add to it. I took a salesperson from 80. I think I hired him originally in 87. Sold cars for 15 years. I got out of the business, sold suits for 15 years, came back in the service department, wrote service for another 5 years, became a service manager. I hired him here. I talked him into coming back down to this new store that we opened to sell cars. And he decided he wanted to get back in service. I put him on the service drive. I guess what I'm saying is I got a salesman on the service drive, and I almost pay him like a salesman for car deals. So I pay $200 flats to turns from an advisor that sell. And anytime there's a large bill, it's not as structured with a word track, but anytime there's a large bill, we'll see 2 or 3 deal turns from the advisors a week. Specifically Jay, who does a real good job with it because he's been in sales before and he thinks that way. But, going back to this, almost a segment before when we talked about the people back there and touching with them, the technicians have awards that they get from General Motors called Mark of Excellence Awards. And they have boxes, their boxes are 30 grand and they're 10 inches taller than I am and 15 feet wide. There's nobody more proud than a service technician about their tools, their awards, and what they got on their box. And when we have monthly, we have a sales, service, and parts luncheon on the showroom floor where everybody eats together. They're not allowed to sit in the same seats together. We read off a bunch of good guy letters on how great our mechanics are and our advisors are and how great this customer felt of us and all that. And sales gets theirs, service gets theirs. Everybody comes together. We get a Mark of Excellence award. I mean, when that technician comes up amongst 80 people and gets to the front of the room and gets his little award to put on his box, I've never seen anybody more proud than that. And they are, once you get that buy-in with sales giving them a standing O and service is high-fiving the guy who got the good survey and eating together and having fun together and singing happy birthday together. All those walls are gone and you want turns from service. Mm-hmm. It's because they like you and they trust you and they respect you like anything else, like trust and respect, right? So if the advisors don't like and trust and respect their sales, it's going to happen. No matter how many word tracks you have, if there's not that feeling in the store, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Tony, you made that key point though. I mean, because what you're doing though is you're leading that process. And that's what it takes to make that happen. And, whatever you focus on and whatever you make important, your people are going to make important. Yeah. And that's what you're saying by that luncheon. The luncheon does great things, but it starts from what you value, and you're valuing that. And you're saying, hey, let's give these guys standing ovations. Let's let sales celebrate the service. And that breaks down those barriers and breaks down those walls. I've seen variable managers that get promoted to GM that still have that animosity with service, and they look at service as a necessary evil, and rather than Forrest is laughing because he's seen it too, and they look at it as a necessary evil versus something that can be a bottom line to the store. And the reality of it is that I started out as a used car lot, and if you don't think that brand and that service department does something for you, go to a used car lot by yourself.
Yeah.
Because
it's a lot of work.
Well, I mean,
it's a lot of work.
General Motors and Ford and Toyota and all, you have to give them props because they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get people to come to your store. They're sending people in there with warranties that the customer doesn't have to pay for, that are sales opportunities and that are services opportunities. Because one of the things we didn't talk about is we're focused on selling the cars again because we're probably all sitting here, we're all variable guys, right? We want to sell something. But what we're not saying is that if you've got a quality service manager that's teaching those people how to diagnose those cars correctly, those are sales opportunities as well, right? If they're diagnosing those cars correctly and they're, the worst thing that can happen to your customer is they come in and they miss a brake job, they miss a rotor situation, they miss a capacitor situation, and then 2 weeks later it goes out. And if you didn't look at it, they blame you. Whether you did it or not, it becomes your problem, right? And if you did a quality thing, a quality evaluation, more than likely you're going to sell that job more often than not. And when you don't, they're going to come in and go, David, you told me I should have did that. and it's going to generate more value for you in your store. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
We let's do a last question here and give you guys a chance just to, and then you can ask, I guess, 2 more questions. We'll ask a question, and then Brett usually gets a topic question in at the end. But I just want to ask something kind of in general, just with regards to what we're talking about, and really regards to anything in your leadership. And Forrest, we'll go to you, man. I mean, when it comes to developing influence, right? I mean, you're leading people. And the car business, if you want to have a really good store, and I know your store and Tony's as well, you guys have great stores, but there's dealerships in your market or dealerships that you've been around that are just doing it. They're just going through the motions. And so my question is, how do you and did you and have you developed influence around you? I mean, how, when it comes to leadership, just to because it's not just, hey, I'm selling cars or this is where I work, but they really are buying in. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. How do you get them to do that, Forrest? And, if you don't mind me asking.
No. So it's as complicated as it may seem. It's, in my opinion, it's pretty simple. I think it starts with the culture. I don't ask my guys to do anything I wouldn't do if I need to do it. I'll go back. I mean, if I need to be back there and detail a car, I have no issue doing it. I'll help with lot parties. If, heck, I've been back there helping one of the techs change oil because we're short-handed. I mean, it's all about if you set the right culture and everybody knows why you're doing it, and you don't look like that pompous prick sitting there doing it just to cash all the money in. They don't feel like they're working their butt off for a dime so I can get $1. That's the quickest way to get somebody to start animosity. Then the culture gets bad, and then you start getting cancers and everything else. But it's all about, take care of your people. They'll take care of the customer, and the customer will take care of you. It's a real simple mindset, in my opinion. If you take care of your people and they're happy, they'll take care of the customer, and the customer will take care of you.
The one thing you're saying, though, Forrest, you're saying it's a simple mindset, but what I found is that most of the concepts are very simple. The execution is very difficult. And what you're doing, you're discounting it. You're doing the same thing that Tony was doing. He's discounting what comes naturally to him. What you're doing is powerful because very few people can do what you did. Yeah.
Well,
or maybe they're willing to do. They're willing.
Well, I just don't think they see it like that. I think that they see, most people wait for leadership so they can get the right parking place, so they can get the right demo, so people will listen to them, they can power up, they can shine, rather than what Forrest was saying is he puts the spotlight and the focus on the others. And by doing that, when you reach that point in leadership, you shouldn't need the self-accolades anymore. When you get there, you should already know that you can. Now you're trying to inspire David, and I'm using David as an example, but now you're trying to inspire David that he can too, right?
That's good.
Amen to that. I mean, it's, like I said, simple mindset. And I had an old man tell me about 15 years ago in Lubbock, Texas. I used to eat breakfast with him about once or twice a week when I was going to school up there.
Guns up.
Sucker. Yes, sir.
I saw it above your credenza there, man.
He's on me there. And this old fellow was a farmer. It didn't look like he had a pot to pee in. And ended up he had 40,000 acres of farmland out there and probably could, buy your vehicle in the dealership on a lot with cash if you wanted to. And he told me, he said, Forrest, he said, don't ever forget. He said, you're never better than anybody. I said, everybody you come across is better at you than something. And kind of taking that mindset into it is the same way with the people. I don't care if it's the janitor or the salesman, whatever the case may be. I mean, hell, I've done 90% of the jobs they're doing right now. So just because I was there at one point and they're there now doesn't make anybody better than anybody else. You take care of them and show that you take care of them. And at the end of the day, hell, they spend more time with us than they do with family most of the time. So essentially, they're pretty much family. And it's seemed to work out well for me. I may have be completely messed up on my thought process there, but I like the results thus far. So I'm gonna keep tracking at it and see what happens. But
it's good stuff.
How about you, Tony?
I'd work with them any day. So yeah, I'd love to go to battle with you. So
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hey, you gotta be a coach, not a boss. At least in our stores you do, in my store you do. You gotta coach. So coaching means you can walk the walk. Coaching means you can walk out in the middle of the showroom floor, you can take a phone pop, you can schedule appointments 15 minutes one side or the other, and they're going to show.
I like that.
So you got to take a phone pop in front of 40 people and make it happen. You got to take an up every once in a while. You got to take a turn in the booth. You got to sit in the middle of the showroom floor, not in the back office doing TV shows.
I like that. so let's flip the
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, get in the game. Walk the walk. If you walk the walk, your people will walk right with you side by side.
Let's flip that question, though, Tony, and ask, so you say walk the walk, but how do we walk the walk with technicians? Because I don't think anybody on this set can diagnose a car.
Well, it's not diagnosing the car. It's making an appearance and being there with them, acknowledging, what they're doing. Ask them what they're doing. Get involved. What exactly are you doing here? And you're going to get a 10-minute story real quick. And it doesn't take that much of your day to figure out what your shop foreman is doing today. He'll show you. He'll show you how many ROs he has to get through. He'll show you exactly why this intake manifold is this way and this way. He'll show you what he's doing, and then you can giggle and walk away in the middle of it if you want to, as long as he knows that he was talking over your head, and it makes him feel good. And you check back with him 3 hours later, because you got to go to the bathroom anyway, so why don't you walk through the shop on your way and stop and see how the job's going? And you do that every once in a while, guys, and you're on the team. You're walking the walk with them. You don't have to turn a wrench. Have to walk the walk.
Nice. We'll let you ask the topic question.
Well, what we've been doing, and I don't know if we did it the last time you were on, Tony, but what we've been doing is what we're trying to do with this show is serve dealers where they live, where they are, and bring practical topics and practical applications that you're going to be able to apply and get a nugget of information. Because I feel like everybody that's on this set today and has been since I've been here is very powerful people. We've had great show guests, and we all say kind of the same things. But if I can take one nugget from Forrest, and if I can take one nugget from Tony, if I can take one nugget from Dave, then man, I can get further faster. And so what we would ask you guys is, and we'll start with Forrest, is what topics would you like to see us cover that would help you and serve you?
Well, I mean, and this is going to sound really probably goofy that I'm asking this topic and this question, because essentially I'm probably considered a millennial, but I personally have had a really, really, really tough time figuring out how to manage those guys.
Okay, how to manage a millennial?
And like I said, I know it sounds goofy coming from a younger guy like me, but I've yet to figure out what motivates them, other than
that's a good show. Right
time off and laziness. But
that is a good show.
I don't think you're I don't think you're a typical millennial.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I hear Lubbock. I hear gun barrel. I just don't think that you're a Dallas-Fort Worth millennial.
No, I mean, there's not too many of I guess what you consider normal millennials in Gun Barrel City, America, which it's quite an interesting place. But
where is that, by the way? Where is Gun Barrel City, by the way?
It's about 70 miles southeast of Dallas.
Okay, so you're southeast of Dallas. Okay.
I'm about 20 miles straight south of I-20.
Okay. I was just trying. My mother's from East Texas, so I was trying to get my bearings of where that was. So.
Okay. Okay.
By the way,
it's a big place, but it ain't that big.
That's a great topic too. By the way, we've done a show couple years, 3 years ago on that, but that's a great show. It's needed because some of the best of the best. I mean, I think that there's some definite great insight on that topic. So,
how about you,
it's just,
Tony?
It's been tough.
Well, I think coming out of COVID and we're, I think I've read a lot of stuff and a lot of Facebook stuff and auto meme stuff and about how coming out of COVID, basically we've reduced expense, but we've increased gross, and we've reduced expense, and really,
it's a beautiful thing.
I think we're getting pushed down the path digitally, especially up at, maybe I'm a little different up here, and this is a really digital country, and I'm struggling with getting. I think my processes are unique, and I think we're ahead of the game there. I do all the pricing of every car, new and used. We use a third-party source for that creates UAs on trades, and this, a salesman basically can create their own pencil. but I'm a little bit struggling with how to put certain vendors together, how to get that whole digital process downline, so we can put the Carvanas and the Vrooms and the disruptors at, really at a disadvantage, because they don't have the franchise agreements that we have. They're at a big disadvantage, but they're taking advantage of dealers because we're real choppy on our digital process all the way down the line. It's choppy because the vendors aren't all together, and really what that process really should look like all the way down the line. I'm getting close, but boy, I can't tell you how much time I've spent trying to get this all together, and I don't feel it's there yet. And I feel for other dealers, there's going to be some that aren't even close.
So you want to talk about creating some kind of digital process as it relates.
There's a digital funnel that we're putting customers down, that the disruptors are putting customers down, that dealers are struggling with.
I got you.
And even the ones like me that are focused on it for like 2 years straight, I can't quite get it right. And it's frustrating to me that we have GM and Ford and Lincoln and everybody behind us, but they're no good at it either. So
no, we're on the same page. I don't think it. To be honest with you,
we're not there yet, guys, and I'm getting a little nervous about it, because there's no reason for these third-party used car lots to be able to get us on process. It's really silly to get taken advantage of like this, but we are getting taken advantage of.
Love it.
Well, I tell you that I don't think that. I don't think that it's. But I know you're in a wired area, but I think that all across the country, I don't care if you're in Gun Barrel City or in my case in rural Mississippi, digital's here, man. And the most person that you would expect the least to be in digital, that's how they're doing it. The bad credit people, they're doing it digitally, and you have to have that process streamlined. And we're doing the same things. But I will say this: I guarantee you, and you can say it here today on this show, that those disruptors won't be successful. The dealer body's going to win this war. I promise.
They will win.
Yeah.
But I just think that we're disjointed, and we can come together. And if Dave, you can help us, we'd appreciate it.
I'm gonna dig into this myself too, because it'll benefit me and my stores. And
it's a great
because this is something we're working on ourselves. We're doing the same thing you're doing. But what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is there's 5 or 6 vendors, and every one of them does a little different, but they all kind of overlap in some areas, and some areas they don't offer. And but if you look up, it's kind of the way the traditional ad was 20 years ago, is that you feel like you got to be in a little bit of everything, and all of a sudden you look up and you're spending triple the amount of money, and it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of get frozen. You don't do anything because nothing fits quite right. And that's where I'm at, is I can't get everything to fit the way I want it to fit. So I'm not going to spend the money till I get it right. And
if you don't mind, I'm going to get your number from Dave, and I'm going to call you. And I'd like to pick your brain on some of that stuff and maybe give you some ideas that I've got.
Yeah, so we can talk about vendors offline would be better anyway. Okay, good.
Hey, thank you guys. Hey, excellent show, and we appreciate you guys coming on. And I know you're extremely busy, but we appreciate you guys, and we know that you know what, these are going to be some great topics, because both of these are phenomenal topics, and I can't talk too much about it because I want to get into it and start talking about it.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we'll start a second show right now,
yeah.
and he's already indicated he's got to get back to the people, man.
Hey guys, I appreciate it very much, Tony and Forrest.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to having you guys back on soon.
Nice to meet you, Forrest.
Yeah, you too. Appreciate
Forrest,
it, guys.
Tony, y'all did a great job, guys.
Yeah,
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I tell you, man, I can get into that. Both of those discussions, the millennial discussion. We've done a couple of shows back in the day on that. I've written tons of articles. We had just an overwhelming, where I wrote an article that's had 6,000 or 7,000 views on Forbes on motivating millennials, and I'm telling you, there's a lot, because if you go out in our office, we've done a pretty good job at it. So, and what got me thinking about it years ago was there's a guy that my father worked for. My father's 66. I'm 48. He was only 18 when I was born, but he's still, 66. And there's a guy in his 80s still living that he worked for that was along the lines of a Jack Welch, kind of the former CEO of GE,
right.
That kind of, fire the bottom 10% every month kind of deal.
Which you can't do anymore.
You can't. No, but this guy's 85 years old, and he's worth about $150 million. He sold a company my dad worked for. It's called the Flyer. It's he sold it for $66 million cash.
Wow.
And then bought it again 3 years later for $2 million.
That's beautiful.
And then sold it again. But anyway, point is that this guy, when he sold that, was, I mean, this was just in the last decade. It was 80 years old probably then, and he was coming to work. His son owned a company in the building that we were in prior to this, or two buildings ago. He's walking down the foyer, and we saw each other all the time because he would kind of have an office in there. Worked every day. And he walks by me and he goes, I'd like to pick your brain. I see these young millennials that you have. And he goes, I tell you one thing I have not been able to crack. And this guy's conquered the world. And he was on the original team back in the day that invented MasterCard. He was on the team at Chase, I think it was.
Nice.
Yeah, so this guy's done a lot of cool stuff. He goes motivating the millennial. So that when I heard that, I'm like, this guy, I got something this guy hasn't done. Anyway, he wanted to pick my brain on it. So my point is, it's near and dear to my heart. And the second topic, he's the only dealer that I've ever heard out of his mouth say the one thing that I've emphasized on the shows that we've done about Carvana and all these disruptors. They've all said stuff, but Tony's hit it on the head. He said there's no reason that the dealer shouldn't be beating them because we've got the manufacturer, the franchise relationships.
Yeah, they just really have an expensive used car lot.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. And going back to what you said, get a sneak peek in the millennials, I think why most people are having trouble with the millennials is because they're trying to fit it into an old process.
Yeah.
And you can't fit, the lesson there is you can't fit old things into a new process.
But the big mistake,
you have to blow the process up.
Absolutely, that's one point. And then the second point is, if you think the millennials, I've heard this, if you feel like millennials, if you put them all in one category, that they aren't interested in making money or having freedom, that's not true. Mm-hmm. That's also not true. But because some of my millennials here will outwork anyone else, and they like to make money. You guys like to make money? You guys okay?
I like to make money, bro. I like making money.
The one thing that we didn't talk about on that show, though, when we were talking about influence, and what I was thinking about is when we're talking about motivating people in areas that you didn't come from, I think what you have to do is you have to have a couple of key leaders. Like I have a key service director. I've got a key controller that has tremendous amount of influence with the daily process. And I've been able to mentor those people and borrow from their influence and influence them in their thought process and how to motivate, train, mentor, and lead their people so that they've been able to go and they have professional credibility on how to diagnose a car. They have professional credibility of how to go in there and handle those transactions efficiently and getting better. And so teaching them the leadership portion so that they can use their professional credibility to do the things like I see you doing when you take over a phone call. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, if you're interested, if you think you have some insight on either one of those topics, or somebody that does, reach out to our team. I know that you can reach out to Mike Cherub. You can actually tag him on this show here, and or send an email to him at M as in Mike Cherub, CHERUP at IPDagency.com, and he'll get you on the show, or if you know somebody, and we'd love to discuss and look into it and see if they are fit.
Absolutely.
Hey, excellent show, my friend.
Another one in the books,
Another
baby.
one down.
It turned out great again.
It sure did. Hey, we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.